Welcome to the PreSnap Podcast presented by LineStar. All things fantasy football with a little bit of sports betting analysis as well for this Monday Night Football game. Big game between NFC West rivals, the San Francisco 49ers against the Los Angeles Rams. Alongside Tyler Weeman, I'm Shannon Somerville. On today's show, we're talking injury reports and why that might spell trouble for the Rams offense, and 3 sleeper picks who you must include in your daily fantasy lineup. We'll also have your game picks, prop bets, and touchdown calls. This game, a lot on the line.
It's a big one for sure.
Not only does it determine the leader in the NFC West, it also could determine the winner in our fantasy football league matchup, Tyler.
Sure could.
I
might be dancing.
I lead by 2 points over Tyler with 3 players for the 49ers in this one, while you have 1 player. The stakes in this one are very high. The loser in this matchup has to do a touchdown dance of the winner's choosing.
Whoa. We did not say that.
Did we?
No. We said of our choice, the loser's choice, not the winner's.
I still think you should do the Zach Wilson gritty in the end zone.
Yeah.
I have to recommend that one when you have to do it tomorrow. Nonetheless, the
good old mom gritty.
The 49ers are favorites in this one, all by a small margin, though. Just 1.5 point home favorites in this one. So it's looking like a lot of the money is backing the Rams in this one. Either way, it's a good game. It has been a great rivalry over the past few years, and if familiarity breeds a little bit of hostility and resentment, well, these are 2 teams very familiar with each other. This will be the 4th time they're meeting in the last 10 months, and each game has been kind of down to the wire.
Yeah. I do think it's funny that, the total isn't that much higher than, say, the Bears-Giants or the Cleveland game that we saw recently as prime time. But, this game is looked at as a good game. The other ones are terrible. Even though the over-under game totals are very similar.
It's pretty low in this one. And the 49ers coming off a tough, somewhat ugly loss against the Broncos, very low scoring affair in that one. However, their defense has been phenomenal this season.
Absolutely.
For the Rams, they are 2-1. However, their wins haven't been all that impressive. In fact, they almost blew a huge lead to the Falcons and then just got by the Cardinals, which have proven to be kind of a mediocre team this season. So it should be interesting to see these 2 squads match up against each other.
And they got blown out by Buffalo.
And Kyle Shanahan tends to own Sean McVay in the regular season, 7-2 record against him. Although McVay did get a little revenge, though, in the NFC Championship game last year. Here's a look at our injury report presented by SixScore.com. Check out the pro football docs at SixScore.com. We're taking a look at this Rams defense going up against the 49ers offense. A lot of injuries all around in this one. 6 score for the Rams defense at 91. Both cornerback Kobe Durant and cornerback David Long with a groin injury out again for week 4. Durant dealing with a hamstring injury. Good news, though. Darian Hendrick cleared concussion protocol. Will likely start for the 2nd straight week amid injuries to the secondary. Another positive note, Rams safety Jordan Fuller, who was dealing with a hamstring injury, he is expected to play. On the 49ers offense, Ty Davis-Price, running back, is out. Tight end Tyler Kroft out with a knee injury. Trent Williams, big injury here. The left tackle out. And wide receiver Danny Gray, doubtful. Tight end Ross Dwelly is questionable in this one. Of this matchup, what stands out to you, Tyler?
As far as the offense, definitely keep an eye on Ross Dwelly. We do know that in these showdown contests, the tight ends often get looked at in the red zone. So if Dwelly's out, maybe look at another one of San Francisco tight ends.
Is that Trent Williams' injury significant to you at all?
Trent Williams is absolutely significant. He is by far their best offensive lineman, and without him, Kittle could be asked to block a little bit more.
Taking a look now at the San Francisco defense going up against that Rams offense. The defense has a 6 score of 85.2. We already have safety Jimmy Ward on the IR with a hamstring injury. You got linebacker Azeez Al-Shahir out with a knee injury. Tavarius Moore out with a hamstring injury. Defensive tackles are Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw are both questionable. Armstead dealing with a foot injury, Kinlaw with a knee injury. They did practice Saturday, although there were some reports Kinlaw was moving around gingerly. On the Rams offense, they have a 6 score of 84.9. Banged up offensive line here. Center Brian Allen, who's been dealing with a knee injury, and guard David Edwards recovering from a concussion. Both are out in this one. And keep in mind the all O-line already thin as Tremaine Ankrum suffered a season-ending ankle injury 2 weeks ago. Tyler, of this matchup of the San Francisco defense versus the Rams offense, what do you make of it, especially given that battered offensive line for the Rams?
Well, the Rams are going to hope that Armstead and Kinlaw are out because that would help their chances greatly here. But Rams O-line's definitely in trouble. It's a big downgrade to that running game for sure. And Stafford might have to get the ball out a little quicker.
For all of the up-to-date 6 score information, everything you need to research on these injuries, which can be incredibly impactful for daily fantasy and for your sports betting, make sure to check out 6score.com. Let's talk about daily fantasy in this game. We've got a lot of players, even season-long fantasy, for example, in our matchup. We've got a lot on the line in this one. At quarterback, you've got Matt Stafford going up against Jimmy G. Trey Lance injured early in the season. Last week, we saw Jimmy Garoppolo come in. The offense didn't put up that many points. From a quarterback standpoint, which one would you plug into your lineup?
I would definitely plug in Stafford before I would Garoppolo. However, I also think that their salaries right now on both sites are a little too close. I think Stafford's clearly the better fantasy quarterback. I would say that I don't know if I would use either of them in a captain spot. Over on FanDuel with the different scoring, going quarterback's fine.
Matt Stafford has been QB 23 in fantasy points, only 1.5 points ahead of Mitch Trubisky. Hasn't exactly put up the numbers a lot of fantasy owners
been struggling.
Have been hoping. And also, that is an indication of the Rams offense as a whole hasn't exactly put up the kind of points many were expecting when you consider the weapons that he has.
Absolutely.
Do you see Stafford only getting better from here on out? What do you think? How do you assess the Rams offense?
I think he will get better. He's going to figure it out. He does have some new pieces. Cam Akers is also only getting healthier. It's going to take some time for him, though. He's definitely either struggling or maybe hindered by that elbow injury a little bit more than everybody's leading on to.
Now, Jimmy Garoppolo has actually done fairly well against the Rams in 3 contests, 720 yards, along with 5 touchdowns in those 3 meetings, including the NFC Championship game. Although just 10 points against Denver, he was stepping into a role he hadn't. The full preparation for him to be the starting quarterback wasn't there. He missed a lot of the preseason training camp. That being said, he does have a lot of weapons at his disposal, and he knows the offense. He knows how this works. What do you see from him tonight?
So my hesitation with Jimmy G is that San Francisco is a very good running team, and Debo, his top wide receiver, is also a running back, or a hybrid running back, I guess you would say. So I think there's a lot of pass where Jimmy G does not get enough passing touchdowns to really make a meaningful impact on this single game slate.
You spoke about the running game in this one. Taking a look at the running backs we've got in this game, we've got Jeff Wilson for the 49ers, Elijah Mitchell, of course, out with an injury in this one. So it's been Jeff Wilson's job. On the other side, you've got Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers. While Cam Akers is the starting running back, it seems like Henderson has been the more productive back for them. How are you evaluating these running backs from a daily fantasy standpoint?
So I do really like Jeff Wilson today. I said I like this running game. The 49ers running game is great. They are missing Trent Williams today, which will be a big blow. But George Kittle is possibly the best blocking tight end in the league. So anyways, as far as the 49ers, I like Wilson. Also will like him to be a captain. As far as a backup, I think it's interesting to look at Jordan Mason here. He barely played last week. However, he is the number 2, and I could see them stepping up his level of snaps a little bit. He barely played. I think he was only in a 9%, so it is a total dart throw, but it's interesting. Also, watch to see if Marlon Mack is active.
On the Rams side, in their running backs, they've been somewhat non-existent. They ranked 29th in rushing. When you look at Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers, the role not quite clear for either one. Mm-hmm. What do you expect for them tonight going up against a rush defense, one of the best in the league? Yeah,
and I think that both of these running backs are going a little under-owned today. There is a good chance one of the two gets a touchdown.
Sure.
Picking which one it is might be a little hard. Last week, or the last 2 weeks, really, Cam Akers has dominated the carries. Mm-hmm. However, last week they still were 50-50 as far as snap share. So it's pretty obvious that Henderson is playing, they just haven't been using him when he's in, and that could easily switch over this week. So I think either of them you can play. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I would use either as far as a captain, but in a flex spot, I like it.
Let's take a look at the wide receivers, and the most highly projected player of any position today is Cooper Kupp. He's in the 49ers defensive coordinator, D'Amico Ryans, said about him. It's the Cooper Kupp show. No matter how you try to slice this game, everything in that offense runs through Cooper Kupp. Given his popularity in daily fantasy, though, and the fact that you probably know the field's all over this one, how do you evaluate whether or not you should plug him in?
So Kupp is going to be super high owned. He is likely going to be the highest owned captain or MVP, and you can't fade him. Mm-hmm. I think you do need to play him. If you're playing a bunch of lineups, do you need him in all of them? No. In some lineups, you should fade him. But he is the most likely guy to lead the entire game in fantasy points. So,
on a touchdown run against the Cardinals, he clocked a speed of 20.45 miles per hour, and that was his fastest speed since his 2018 knee injury. He was a prolific wide receiver last year.
Yeah.
He's almost even better this season, though.
I mean, he's great. And versus the 49ers, he's been insane. Mm-hmm. Last year, he faced the 49ers 3 times, including playoffs, averaged 9.67 receptions, 127.3 yards, and 1 touchdown a game.
You talked about him dominating the 49ers. On the other that, a guy who has dominated the Rams in this matchup is Deebo Samuel, who has been incredible against them. Hasn't quite had the numbers that we're used to seeing from Deebo Samuel. However, we saw a little bit of a glimpse of it last week. Jimmy Garoppolo got him a little bit more opportunities and more involved in the offense, and he has done so well against the Rams historically. 13 passes, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's just receiving. And then he also rushed for 107 yards, 2 touchdowns in 3 matchups last season. Do you see him having another of those performances tonight?
So one of the things we've seen with Deebo, and Kyle Shanahan had a quote this week about it, where Deebo running isn't as effective this year as it was last year because teams know it's coming.
Right.
It is a thing. Everybody knows it's coming. He's going to get 5 to 10 carries, and you can just see what comes of that. He will again tonight. The one thing I do worry is, since he has had this bigger rushing involvement, his targets haven't been as there. Now, the last game, he did have 8 targets. They are trying to get him involved in that way, but he hasn't had a big game catching the ball so far this year.
What do you make of the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo is back in there, a quarterback who he has had really good chemistry with?
I think both their wide receivers, Ayuk and Samuel, are going to be very important this game. Like I mentioned earlier, with Trent Williams out, Kittle is probably going to block a little bit more. He may not be used as much as a tight end. And so there is a little bit worry there for, Kittle's fantasy output. But I think it's really good for both Samuel and Ayuk. And I really do like Ayuk as a captain or MVP play, which will be at low ownership.
Right. Had a touchdown last week against the Broncos. How about Allen Robinson? He's been a bit of a fantasy football question mark, I guess, being outperformed by Kupp, Tyler Higbee, and Ben Skoranek to begin the year. What are you making of some other of the wide receivers, including Allen Robinson?
He's been okay. He hasn't been very good. He hasn't got a very big target volume, but he has been used in the red zone. He only has one fewer red zone targets than Cooper Kupp. So he is being looked at in that zone. Skoranek has more overall targets than Robinson so far. Skoranek is playing 85% of the snaps, or over 85%, but Skoranek has 0 red zone targets. So Robinson is absolutely still involved in the offense, and he's still being used in the area that it matters most. So I think he's interesting. I don't love him as a captain, but I don't mind him as a player, especially in maybe a lineup where you don't use Kupp. Because if Kupp doesn't succeed, it's probably going to be Higbee or Robinson or Skoranek that has a big game. Are
there any other receivers that you're looking at from a daily fantasy perspective?
Yeah, so there are, kind of the flyer guys. There is Brandon Powell, who's the number 4 for the Rams. He has barely played, but they have been trying to get him involved. He is the number 4 for them. But then there's Juwan Jennings, who is the number 3 for the 49ers, who we expect to see a decent amount. Likely plays a little over 50% of snaps. And then there's Ray McCloud, who is the wide receiver 4 for the 49ers. He's playing every game between 18 and 26% of snaps, but he has big playability. He's a very quick guy, so I could see the 49ers trying to design something for him to get him the ball.
With those wide receivers you talked about, 49ers, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel potentially be poised for some big games tonight. That does, however, come at the expense of George Kittle.
Yes.
He hasn't been all that productive this season so far. Granted, he was dealing with a groin injury at the beginning. Trey Lance and him didn't seem to establish all that much chemistry, although now it's back to his boy Jimmy G. However, you mentioned, both Brandon Ayuk, Deebo are healthy. The options are there. And
totally.
How do you evaluate him for tonight against the Rams?
So first, I think he is too cheap. For his ability, he is too cheap on DraftKings and FanDuel. However, Trent Williams being out is a big deal. Last game, once Trent Williams left the game, Kittle was required to block even more than he does usually. Now, Kittle is one of the best blocking tight ends in the league, so it may be more important for him to block a little bit more this week than other weeks. So I do worry about his target volume, but with that being said, he is amazing. Yeah. He can take any pass to the house, and he is too cheap. So if everybody is thinking that he's just going to block today, then I absolutely love the play just because he's going to be lower owned.
He's also been the beneficiary of Jimmy Garoppolo over the past few seasons from 2018 to 2021, averaging 76.4 yards per game. So also something to note there.
Yes.
For the Rams, Tyler Higbee has been producing pretty well for fantasy owners and is the number 2 option in LA right now. What do you make of his matchup for tonight, given that he's facing a much tougher defense?
I do like his matchup here. He has been kind of a target monster, although last week that fell off a little bit. He only had 4 targets. He did well with them, but it was a limited target share. And I do wonder if part of that is due to some of the offensive line injuries that the Rams have.
Sure.
You know, maybe he had to block a little bit more, which makes, I think, Kendall Blanton a little bit interesting as the tight end 2 there. He barely played last week. I think he was only on 5 snaps, but he was targeted and had a 28-yard catch. It was the first game that he has played this year, and he was able to, succeed in a little bit of snap share there. So.
A nice sleeper pick, though, that you can plug in and save up for some other.
Totally, and you got to get it a little different, a little weird on some of these single-game contests, just because if you just jam in all the chalk, even if you win, you're not going to win much.
So let's look at the defense. Not too much you can do to get weird on defense. Nope. It's either the Rams or the 49ers. The Rams, though, they rank 18th in yards per game allowed. Not as prolific as a defense as we've seen, although the rush defense is still good. The pass defense leaves a lot to be desired, ranked 21st. On the other side, 49ers defense, the top defense in the NFL right now. Given that, which one, though, makes sense for you for daily fantasy tonight?
I honestly think either one makes sense. It is a low-scoring game total so far. I think both the offenses will have their chances, but both the Ds will as well. 49ers would project a little bit better than the Rams. Both teams have some offensive line injuries, so there could be, a little more sacks, a little more pressure on the quarterback than usual. With that comes more mistakes. So
it also should be noted that, the 49ers are putting up great numbers. They've also faced really poor offenses. Bottom 3, Seattle, Chicago, Denver, offenses that haven't exactly produced this year. On the other side, the Rams, week 1, they faced the Bills. And so it's hard. You got to take that into account, too, when you're looking at a lot of these stats for the 2022 season.
With football as a whole, that happens a lot just because it's such a small sample size as far as games. It's not like basketball or baseball where there's 80 or 160 games. So some great options there for you in fantasy football for tonight. For all of that information, you can find it at linestarapp.com. Everything you need, lineup optimizer, all the stats in one place. Plus, we have the new Props Edge tool that will help you dominate against the sports books on PrizePicks, on Underdog. Gives you the best edge in terms of our projection or in terms of those sports books odds. So you definitely want to check it out, linestarapp.com. If you're watching us on YouTube as well, be sure to like this video if you're enjoying our content. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so you can keep up with all the latest video content we're coming out with, and even might consider signing up for notifications so you know when our videos are coming out with. We talk a lot about sports betting, and we have our props shows. A lot of times line changes with those, so you want to make sure you're caught up and up to date on everything that we're coming out with so you can go ahead and lock all those bets in on time before anything changes. No, it's not changing. You know what time it is. Yep.
Touchdown calls of the game time. Tyler, who's getting an anytime touchdown for tonight?
I haven't really gone too chalky all year, but tonight I am. We're going Cooper Kupp. He's averaging 9.67 receptions, 127.3 yards, and 1 touchdown per game versus the San Francisco 49ers in 2021. I think he gets in the end zone again tonight.
Really out on a limb there.
Way out on a limb.
I can't blame you because I am going with another fairly chalk player in tonight's game, and that's Deebo Samuel, who has had tremendous success against this Rams defense. He's torched them in the past 3 matchups, 264 receiving yards, 107 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns. In 2022, the Rams are allowing the 9th most fantasy points to wide receivers. Could have a great game. I definitely think his production slowed down a little bit with Trey Lance. Now that Jimmy G's back, he knows who to give the football to, especially in the red zone. Deebo Samuel giving me a touchdown and giving me a nice victory in our fantasy football.
It's funny. I was going to pick Ayuk just to troll you, but Ryan Humphreys picked him, so I don't have to troll you.
All right, so he's going to troll me then.
Yep.
I see how it is.
Yep, I like it.
Let's get to our prop bets of the game for this Monday Night Football game. Where are you headed for a prop bet for tonight?
I'm going with my touchdown call. We're going Cooper Kupp. Like I just said, he has just crushed the Niners. He's going to do it again. We're going over 95.5 yards at plus 100.
Ooh.
Even money, got to do it.
I also got to do Deebo Samuel. We're just keeping it with Deebo in this one. Over 56.5 receiving yards. Now, he's gone over this in each game he's played last season against the Rams. In fact, over 70 in each of those games. And while he's only gone over once this season, I think it's going to be different this time around, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo back. And he definitely knew how to incorporate him last season. I think he gets over that receiving mark tonight, especially against this Rams defense. Their pass defense ranks 21st. I think he might carve up that Rams defense.
Let's go Brandon Ayuk.
All right. Looking at the game picks for this one, interesting to note that it was 2.5, the spread in favor of San Francisco in this one, moved to 1.5. 68% of the money coming in on the Rams as of this morning. It's been kind of an interesting one to take a look at. That being said, where are you headed in this one?
And it's also on the over. I think it's 62% on the over. I'm going to go over, and I honestly don't know who I want to win this game or who I think will win this game. I think it's going to be a very tight, tough game, but I'll go for the 49ers at home.
Yes, I am also going 49ers, laying the points on this one. I think, yes, they are 1-2. However, I think they're one of the better teams in the NFL right now, and I think they've been a little bit unlucky in some of those games. So I really like them. And then when I look at this Rams team, yes, they're 2-1. They have a winning record. However, they've just managed to escape the Falcons and the Cardinals, who aren't the greatest teams. The Bills took it to them week 1. We have yet to see what the Rams are really made of. We'll find out in this one for sure. However, I do see the 49ers defense that's been playing pretty well. They've got weapons. They got Jimmy G back in the saddle. Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Preseason, I think the Niners were my call to win this division. And if they're going to do it, they got to beat the Rams.
And I'm actually going the under in this one. Neither team has really put up points this season. In fact, I think San Francisco averaging 12.3, Rams 20. So I'm just going with law of averages in this one. We're going under.
Makes sense.
So a lot on the line in this particular game.
Let's go Brandon Ayuk.
We'll have to let you guys know who ended up winning our daily our fantasy football matchup. Was it the Team Shandogs? Or is it going to be
good old Padres
chat? That's Tyler's team name.
By the way, LFG San Diego. Locked in playoffs.
Welcome to the club. Welcome to the playoffs club.
Let's go.
As a Yankees fan, happy to welcome you on board. I know it's exciting for you.
Yep, especially when we beat those Mets.
The Mets have had a collapse, but
yes, they have.
Yep, we're getting into the swing of it here with baseball. We got football. We got basketball coming up.
A lot of stuff going on. Yep.
So that's why you want to be subscribed to our channel. Make sure you like this video if you're enjoying our content. Make sure you subscribe and sign up for notifications. Let us know who you're taking tonight in your daily fantasy or your prop bets as well. Share them below. If you have any questions, as always, drop them in the comments. Monday Night Football, NFC West. Good old classic NFC West showdown. Who doesn't love to see it? Good luck to you guys in all your bets and your daily fantasy. We'll see you next time.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.